Unforgivable. Unforgivable. And I know you know what the words are. It's too easy. It's too easy. What 3 words do you say to a woman to make sure you get to her heart? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Soap Lore. I'm your host, Jet, viewing and reviewing the soapiest, sutsiest primetime storylines of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Today we are lathering up one more time with Knots Landing. That's right, I'm knee-deep in. I see no reason to stop. I gotta get to the bottom of this, and this one is so good. It is Season 2, Episode 3, Remembering the Good Times, or something like that. So whether you're new to this or true to this, sit back and enjoy. Tell the kids it's time to play outside or out of sight. Tell babe no questions, suggestions, or concerns for the next 25 to 35 minutes. Everyone else in earshot should be cool, quiet, unless they want to be kicked out on their pizza, because we have got to get through these stories. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is Soap Lore. Hello, gorgeous. Welcome back to another fun-filled edition of Soap Lore. I hope your day is shaping up well. I know mine is. I couldn't wait to get back to Knots Landing. You're thinking to yourself, Jet, 3 in a row? That's right, 3 in a row. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I simply can't wait 24 episodes of something else before I finish this season, because this is picking up steam. And this isn't even a good season, apparently, as people are putting down. We got a lot of ground to cover today. This episode is called Remember the Good Times. Funny little lessons about that space between the good old days, the unknown future, and all the hope you have and all the doubt you have. It's all kind of meshed together. We get to see 3 couples. This one is good. Have you guys ever seen that movie, The Purge? I don't love horror movies, but from time to time, depending on how gory it's going to be, I will sit through a little something. The Purge, if you hadn't seen it, which I doubt many of you haven't, but the basic premise is that there's one night a year where you can roam the streets of the U.S. I think it's worldwide. I don't know. I think there's more than one movie. But you can roam the streets and cut up and do any crime you want just for this one night. If you don't want to participate, you kind of lock yourself in the house. Nothing happens. But if you commit a crime on this one night of the year, it's all good. Can't be tried. No one's going to look at you sideways for it. I kind of feel like that when I'm watching soaps, because there are things that I laugh really, really hard about that, I probably wouldn't do that in real life. I hope. I feel like I've been in similar situations and didn't cackle, but this episode had me in a chokehold. We get to meet an extraordinarily humorous writer / drunk, Earl, and his fed up, ready to throw down wife, Miss Judy. In addition to Earl and Judy, we have to discuss boot booze. That is liquor kept within your boot. Yes, that's a real thing. The reluctant cheerleader role. Lack of home training, embracing your inner a-hole. The joys of fine china, and a mukbang love bomb that I never saw coming. So go ahead and settle in, pour yourself up something bubbly and bright, or just kick your feet up, baby. We need to relax. And let's get into Season 2, Knots Landing, Episode 3, Remember the Good Times. Before we jump into this episode, we have some fan mail / comments. I like to call it chatter, chit, a bunch of Soap Fiends. Really good comments I want to touch base on. This one is based Season 2, Episode 1, Hitchhiker. And I'm not going to say your full name unless you tell me to, but let's just call this one Jupiter. Hey, Jupiter. Comment reads, this episode, like The Lie from Season 1, is really interesting as a time capsule. So much of this just seems like common sense. For a teenage girl not to get in a car with an older man, and for an older man not to let himself be alone in a car with an underage teenage girl. But then you realize how much more trusting people were back then, and it's kind of devastating that we've lost that. Anyway, I appreciated the commentary and the sage advice to let her walk. As for them sneaking in another house, they actually skipped over a house, the house between the Averys and the Wards, in Season 1, and it's always super weird. Was that family just antisocial? Oh my God, that's so it was nice that somebody moved in there this season. As for the ties between Knots Landing and Dallas, it always seemed in the early years like they couldn't decide how connected they wanted the shows to be, and they kept changing their minds. And then things happen later on that you will understand when you get there, but I don't want to spoil it for you. Thank you for the comment. You know what? That is some really good advice. I read this first, obviously, and I made sure to actually watch the opening credits, and two things quickly came to mind. First off, you made a really, really good point. I didn't notice that there were other houses and that they had totally skipped over them. And that is weird that you would have this cul-de-sac that's so, tight knit and it's so close together. I would imagine kids are always playing outside, but yeah, was that family just antisocial, or is it like some tycoon's house that he rents out? This is long before Airbnb. That is really weird that we don't actually see any other neighbors, considering how social these four couples are with each other. Very interesting. When I watched it this time, I'm like, oh my God, there's 8 houses. I've never seen an 8-house cul-de-sac in my life, or maybe I just don't pay attention. I think you would call that something else, like it'd be a court or a smaller version of a street. I know in different cities and municipalities they call it different things, but did not realize there were 8 whole houses. So I guess this leaves room for this to be a whole lot more interesting. And then, y'all, I'm actually quite embarrassed because although I am newish to this, I am new to this genre, new to this, this particular soap opera, names have been popping up here and there. Donna Mills is a name I've definitely heard before, especially since endeavoring into this. Didn't put 2 and 2 together. I watched The Divas Christmas. I watched her for 2-3 whole episodes. And then I made myself go back to make sure I watched the credits for this particular episode. Didn't clock that was her at all. Like, oh my God, she's not Ginger's twin. That's like the lady. I'm assuming she's going to be on the show for a long time because people were making a huge deal about her. But I've seen her, like if you go to look up Knots Landing, I don't know how you guys are watching this, if you're streaming it or if you're buying the DVDs, if you have it on tape somewhere. When you go back to like buy them, she's definitely on the box covers, but she's so young this season. I didn't even realize that was her. I literally watched this, the same episodes twice and the credits twice before I realized who the hell that was. And even then, I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else, but I definitely feel like that name rang out first, and then I put 2 and 2 together and figured out who she was. I'm kind of embarrassed. She looks great in the Divas Christmas or the Ladies of the 80s Christmas, but I just did not realize that was her. She looks like a teenager here to me. But yeah, Jupiter, I totally agree with you. You would think you wouldn't want to jump in a car with people, especially at night. And that innocence is something that I had kind of assumed this era or this time in the world would have been the world would have been saturated with that sort of innocence. Okay, yeah, I'll give her a lift. But he was hesitant. There was something about Pam. She was giving off that creepy, I'm out here. I'm way too comfortable in the streets to be afraid of you, which scares me. She was giving off the Purge vibes. I definitely thought she was going to rob him, or I thought that they were going to end up letting her live with them. And then she'd still something like that. I thought wayward teen makes right, with it being early 80s. Did not see a rape case coming. All right. It is quite sad that we've lost a lot of that innocence. I even thought, like, what would I do in that situation? I know people are just more comfortable with women, but I'm like, would I feel comfortable? I'd probably feel comfortable picking up a kid, but I'd definitely have the camera on. I'd definitely be on the phone with someone. Like, I just couldn't do that. And I would definitely advise my husband against it. That's just, sadly, it's the world we live in. You don't want any issues. And you never know. She could have been a psycho. I could have been a psycho. Who knows? I have another comment from Jupiter, which kind of taps into what we're going to talk about today. I love your analysis about Valene and Gary. I think you're spot on. The reason I love this show so much is how rich the subtext is. They don't come out and say it, but you can definitely feel that 17 years have passed since Valene and Gary's first marriage, and that they're not jumping back into things seamlessly as they tell everyone, as seamlessly as they tell everyone they are. Like in the season 1 finale, she effortlessly goes back to cleaning up his messes. But as she's becoming more and more independent before our eyes, we start to wonder if she's going to be willing to keep doing that, or is it going to start to get old for her? I could not agree more. And it's like the stronger she gets, the more I'm looking at Gary, and it's like he's kind of brooding, he's doing his thing, but he seems to snap at her. And we'll get into that on this episode. There were so many moments where I just wanted to slap Gary, just like, she's kind of his pseudo mom now. And anytime she brings something up, he seems extremely annoyed with her because she's kind of pushing him to step into some sort of responsibility. And he gets all flustered mustard, but Sid can say anything to him. We're going to get into that, y'all, because I go back and forth with Gary this episode. This comment is from Arizona. Alexis's wigs seem to have a life of their own. I do agree that the rat wig look is not a good one. She does look like a low budget Elizabeth Taylor. Arizona, and I don't know if I said low budget, but I'm not going to disagree with you, baby. I think part of the fun of me watching her is that she's not afraid to change it up. And I think when you are bold enough to walk into a room with short hair one day and then come back with this beautiful fall and it's all fluffy, that says something about you. I love that boldness, but I don't know what's going on. And what season? That's this season, wasn't it? Or was it the end of last season? I think it's the beginning of this season. Season 4. I'm not feeling it. It's like it hadn't quite grown in, and it makes me think, I don't know if she had another role or something at the time, but it ain't quite sitting right. And you can tell she's not 100% comfortable with it either, because her fingers are constantly in it, like she's willing her hair to grow back. Not low budget Liz. Hey, that Colby money hadn't kicked in. I don't know why she hadn't flown halfway across the world and got like a custom one. Okay, this one is a really good one. This one is from Albany. You know what I loved about that kiss between Adam and Fallon? Oh! Adam seemed genuinely unbothered by the fact that they were siblings. I honestly think that if Fallon had been game, he would have still gone for it. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, you're right. I do remember watching the revealing. I can't remember what the name of the episode was when it was revealed, but he didn't seem totally bothered by it. He almost felt like, I agree with you. He was still kind of giving her that look like, I mean, we weren't raised in the same. I'm like, Adam, y'all are blood. This isn't your stepbrother. That's weird. And why are they always trying to make Fallon sleep with the relative or an almost relative? Do y'all see that? I will never. I know you're tired of me saying it. I don't care. I haven't forgot it. I have never shaken that off. She hooked up with Cecil. I don't care how we try to rewrite history. She totally hooked up with Cecil the first time we met her. Season 1, episode 1 and 2 and 3, if memory serves me correctly, before he paid her to marry Jeff, which Jeff tends to forget. Don't even get me started on them. I'm so pissed off at Jeff in his denim tuxedo, thinking he's sexier than everybody with his Prince Eric hair. And now he's treating Kirby like Kirby's whole father died. And I can't even get into that right now. I'm upset with Jeff. Jeff better damn well redeem himself. But yeah, I agree. Adam was fully into it, and doesn't he even make a joke about it later on? He mentions it on another scene, on another episode, and I remember thinking, you freak. While we're on the topic, last thing. Is it just me, or wouldn't you think if let's say, I don't know your name. Let's say you're, Albany. Let's say that's your government name, and this is for all you soap fiends. And you wake up one day and realize that you were a baby who was left in the rain. And you've been living with this old grandma lady who turned out to be your kidnapper. Find out that you have this billionaire oil tycoon family in Denver, Colorado. Would you change your name? Would you continue to go by Albany, or would you be like, oh, your name was Stewart? I can't imagine why Adam is answering to Adam. I feel like I would forget that was my name if I've been Michael for 25 years. He adjusted beautifully to his new name, his new money, and all the new lives he gets to ruin. Now let's go ahead and get into this one. This episode is hilarious to me for all the wrong reasons. I shouldn't laugh, but I did. And since I took the time this episode to actually watch the opening credits, I happened to notice that it said guest starring Paul Rudd. Of course, it's not the Paul Rudd we know from Clueless. He would have been 11. I looked it up. He looks amazing. I've heard jokes about how young he looks, but I didn't really know how old he was. He looks amazing. Yeah, he would have been about 10 or 11 when this aired. But if it's Mr. Earl, this dude is amazing. I'm gonna look up more of his credits. All right, remembering the good times. This episode opens up with new girl Abby, aka Donna Mills, aka I'm so sorry I didn't recognize your face. She looks so young. Maybe she is young. They did go into details on one episode saying that Sid was 15 years older than her. But Sid looks to be, if I'm guessing, he looks at least 10 years older than most of the cast. Granted, this is from the late 70s, early 80s, when grown men who were 30 looked 50. I don't know what that's about. Again, maybe it's just me with the button-up shirt. He's got the salt and pepper hair. He's kind of got that really chill thing. He just gives off, I've been here a long time, so I don't really need to worry about a lot. You know what I mean? He seems very steadfast and sturdy. So he appears older than he probably is, but he is at least 15 years older than Abby. Abby is moving into one of the vacant homes on the street. Potentially there are 3 other vacant ones, or other people have other things to do. I don't know what it is. But she is moving in, and I use that word very loosely. She has a home that other people are moving items into. I can't wait to see how Karen really feels about her. She seems to like her, but I think she's on, like, she knows Abby be on that bull. She's going to be a huge pain in the butt, I can tell. A ginormous one. She's fresh off this divorce. She's in a brand new city. Now, she's young. I keep saying that because despite her being married and getting a divorce, and despite her having 2 kids, she doesn't seem like that's been her life. Doesn't seem like she's been hands-on with said kids. She's worried about going on dates. She's laying in the pool at the beginning of the episode getting a tan while Karen comes over with a fresh basket of laundry, and she's like, hey, Abby, you want to jump out and help me sort these out? Now, I had 2 thoughts. You sort laundry first and foremost before you wash it. And then number 2, after Abby made this statement, she's like, well, I mean, the pink stuff is my daughter's, the blue stuff is my son's, and anything else is mine. My next thought was, well, duh, obviously. Why would I get up and help you fold clothes if you've already washed them? There's no need to sort them. Abby don't care if those clothes are folded or not. She's got other things on her mind. Valene saunters over. This is all at Abby's pool. And she is elated. She's holding a box, y'all. She just got her first set of fine china. And you know what? Way to go, Valene. I said it last time. I've enjoyed watching her grow. I'm enjoying seeing the person she becomes, and it may be insignificant to someone who's been an adult for a long time, but this is her first time buying her own dishes. She doesn't have to use the hand-me-downs with Jock's dried up drool and JR's BS all over it. She gets to eat off a fresh plate with no Ewing BS, and they are gorgeous. She took her time. Gary's hard work is paying off. Oh, baby, she can't wait to crack these plates open. She can't wait to throw a shindig and have people eat off her fine cutlery. I was so excited for her because I, too, am a fan of beautiful dishes. I get it. It's, oh, my God, let me bust these out. Now, granted, if I had people coming over, we're probably going to be off paper plates, depending on what the meal is and what sort of gathering it is. No need to eat chips off of fine china at the Super Bowl. There's just no point in that. But either way, Valene is so stoked that she's not eating off of Ellie's old dishes. So she offers them to Abby, and Abby's like, well, that's cool. Yeah. I might need them. And then, much like Karen, Valene makes a mistake, and she's like, well, is there anything I can help you with? Abby's like, girl, as a matter of fact, you can. I need you to babysit. I got a date. Nah, I can't babysit. She's already trying to figure out how to get out of the house. As the show goes on, she does indeed get to go on her date. Her nephew comes over to babysit. But before all that, the movers show up and they're moving couches. They're moving all the furniture. Whoever's home and available is moving crap inside of her house. Abby is remarkably ill-equipped to move or manage her own household. There's a scene where Valene is scrubbing this glass table. And she says, Abby, you got any more rags? This one is filthy. And this girl, Abby, says to Valene, now where would they be? But Valene don't live with you. Where did you pack them? She has no clue. She don't know where her stuff is. She don't really care where those kids are. Got myself a date. That's all she's worried about, is getting to this date. So her house is in shambles. It's the first night the kids are going to be staying there. Eric, her nephew, comes over to babysit. Karen sent him over. Like, oh, it'll be fine. Now, Karen is thinking, okay, it's 6:30. She's going to go on this little date. She'll be back by 10, 11 at the latest. We're right next door. No big deal. He has school tomorrow. But, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30 come and go. Midnight comes and goes. And 2 o'clock in the morning happens. Now, by this point, Karen is like, where the hell is Eric? She walks over. She says, hey, what are you still doing? Where's your auntie? Oh, she's not here. She's not back yet. So Karen takes over because she needs to send him home to go to school. When Abby finally pours herself into the front door at 4 a.m., Karen is stern, but not like she's not going off on her. You can tell she's giving her a pass. Your family. Abby's clearly sort of free-spirited, and she's like, dude, you should have been here. This was your kid's first night in this house. What if they'd woken up and they were terrified? And Abby's like, but did they? And Karen had just, well, no, they didn't. How are you letting this woman dupe you 2 times in one episode? You've already done the hard work for her. She sees no need to change anything she's doing. Being a good neighbor is great. Being a wonderful sister-in-law is even better, but I wonder how long that's going to be. Karen doesn't seem like the type to stay in something long-term if it's not working. I think she'll have to get Abby together at some point, but Abby is unbothered. There are 4 women scurrying around her, doing all the things she didn't really care to do. Why change? They make it really easy. When Eric goes over, Abby comes downstairs. She's dressed. She looks great. She's about to go on her date. Eric kind of gives her the once over, and he's like, Aunt Abby? And they start playing that sexy music in the back. And I'm like, what the? No, that is her nephew. That is mad weird. You can tell he's kind of like, oh my God, you look super hot. But he tells her she looks pretty. But he's battling a thought. And it makes me realize, Albany, you were 100% right with that Adam comment. And I kind of felt the same vibe here. A little bit weird. They shouldn't have thrown on the sexy saxophone music after it. We already had the obligatory I'm sexy and I know it scene. There was no need to amplify that. None of us forgot that Abby was supposed to be her this episode. The nephew? I was just in here thinking too. On Dallas, now we know that Lucy and Ray are related. Fallon was almost Cecil's daughter. Looks like they were pointing that way. Then she kissed her. Y'all, come on now. Did you have to sprinkle in incest in the early 80s? Is this something I missed? I'm not a fan. I'm just saying. I think we can all agree that we can leave the incestual crushes and kisses out. Agreed? Agreed. You know who else isn't kissing? Ginger and Kenny. Ginger, too, has a date. However, her date sucked. This guy's mad creepy. She just wants to go into her house, mind her business. She and Kenny are separated, but he is actively living with, as far as I know, he is actively living with Sylvie, the lounge singer. So why not go on a little datey poo? Can't tell if there's going to be any reconciliation at this point in the show yet. But she seems to think, well, let me weigh my options, because Kenny certainly is going to weigh his. So after her terrible date with this man she has no interest in ever seeing again, she gets in the house and the phone's ringing and it's Kenny. And Kenny is at a sexy saxophone soundtrack bar that's all red and it's hubble music in the back while he's making big... I don't know what the hell. He clearly asked the bartender to borrow the phone. And this is like, it's not a rotary phone, but it's one of those, I have to hold it and have to beep, boop, boop, beep, beep, the buttons. He's holding that and then he's like making a motion to the bartender that he's on the phone. I'm like, obviously, who passed? You clearly didn't walk in with that, sir. No one's confused. Anyway, he wants to go over to Ginger's house and collect a microphone for a session that is going to happen in the morning. Ginger's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You can just come over before I go and leave for school. And he goes, well, I was thinking I could come over right now. She's, Kenny, God, I know you not. You really trying to come over here at night? You can't come over here. I don't want you in my house at night. He's like, are you sure? I'll tuck you in. Well, blah, 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 blah. Clearly, he just wants to see her. He's showing up at the other couple's houses. He is making these unnecessary phone calls. You can tell. He's like, well, you can't blame a guy for trying. He does indeed show up the next morning, and this is when we see Abby's things being moved in. Now, Abby does drop a box so that he'll come over. So, just really quick, that is an inevitable affair. Clearly, they are going to hook up because Abby seems to be giving off. She doesn't seem to be like manipulative or anything, but she seems to be an open flirt. And it could just be that she just got divorced. She needs to make sure she still got it. You know what I'm saying? We don't know how her marriage was. We don't know who her ex-husband is at this point. You OGs do. I don't know who it is. But she seems to just kind of want her groove back. He's cute. Why not? And she's probably picking up on the fact that he is the neighborhood whore. I'm calling it now. That'll be an easy takedown in the near future. I'm positive. So throughout the rest of this episode, he makes a couple different efforts to woo Ginger. Now, she seems to be very upset. This is a very strong contrast in the way that they're both looking at the situation, or separation, as they're saying. He is still happy-go-lucky. He is the same guy who showed up on her field trip with the gorilla mask, acting a fool, telling Gen X kindergartens all of their business, all of him and Ginger's business. He revealed her government name to the kids, which is so disrespectful. You know, kids in the 70s didn't know their teacher's first name. That's Miss Whoever. Well, he's kept that same energy. When he showed up over at Sid and Karen's house, he was just happy-go-lucky. She's upset when he shows up. She's got her arms crossed. She's not welcoming to him, but he's oblivious to it. Completely oblivious. And she is, I don't know if she seems to be hurt still. However, she also seems a little bit humored by his effort. So he feels like, I'm trying to get that old name back. And as far as I know, he is still living with Sylvie. If I'm understanding the situation properly, he lives with Sylvie. So finally, he calls up Ginger and he says, hey, why don't we go to this? I'm just going to make up Mamma Mia's is a horribly cliche, made up Italian restaurant name. And Ginger is like, oh, no, we can't go there. Kenny, quit playing on my phone. That's where we got engaged. That's where we had our first kiss. That's where we went all the things. And he's like, yeah, come on. I'll buy you some marinara. I'll buy you some mozzarella. Just fake accent, all these things. And then he drops a bomb. He does something so unforgivable. I almost turned off this damn show. This man turns her deepest heartfelt desires. This is a woman who married him, despite him being the town whore. A woman who loves him and his potentially prosthetic chin. I don't know if it's real. It's not. Wow. He uses a weakness of hers to manipulate a situation, to drag her out of this steadfast respect that she's built for herself. It only took 3 words. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. And I know you know what the words are. It's too easy. It's too easy. What 3 words do you say to a woman to make sure you get to her heart? Deep dish pizza. Deep dish pizza, Ginger. And she gasped. Damn you, Kenny. You know I love that deep dish pizza. Yeah, I know you like that deep dish pizza. So now she ain't got no choice. Now, before she know it, she was going to come home and grade some finger paints or whatever since she has kindergarten. Actually, that's a perfect gig. She's probably not grading many papers in kindergarten. But she was about to take off her bra and just call it a night. Probably read a book. You're not leaving the house. Now she's got to get up. She's got to get dressed and get on down to Mamma Mia's and have this damn date with this serial cheater just so she can enjoy this damn deep dish pizza. How dare you, Kenny? I'll never forgive him for this. Well, over dinner, of course, she got a gut full of just deliciousness. She's what you know. She's full and he's just laying it on thick. He's still hot. Let's not, for those of you who have forgotten, he looks like one of those Jenners. He looks like Brody and Brandon combined. He is a Jenner. And they're reminiscing and they're talking about, this time and that time and the time they ran away from that farmer and they hooked up on the hay. And it reminded me of the episode I called Floral Fixation. Ginger seems to have a habit of getting it in outside. It's like, we'll talk about that another time. I don't know if I hope your kids are playing outside, but we'll talk about that another time. They're reminiscing on all that. And it's like, girl, the deep dish is one thing. Don't go any deeper than that. Eat your food, get a to-go box, and leave. But no, before she knows it, she got a gut full of mozzarella and cheese, deep dish pizza, clams. He did the whole thing, baby. There was so much food on the table. The breadsticks, the wine, the calamari, whatever, you name it, he put it on the table. He's like, I'm going to feed you good. Then you're going to invite me to your home. And sure enough, she did. She invited him home. They did what they do. And part of me was not surprised. I didn't think they'd get back together. And spoiler alert, they didn't get together then. So they're lying in bed post-coitus. And he says something like, well, I guess I'll make sure all my things get moved back in tomorrow. She was like, why? And he's like, well, we just made love. And I was thinking to myself, Kenny, you make love all the time. Oh my gosh, I sound like an old lady laughing. You do this all the time. This is probably his 15th time post-coitus that week. This is just once for her. So he is shocked that throughout this ruckus lovemaking that she wasn't wooed back by him. She's like, Kenny, ain't nothing changed. You still you. You did this when we were together. I'm going to need you to put on your pants and get out. But the audacity of this pretty boy to put this love bomb mukbang in her face to try to win her back. And I'm really glad that she just kind of stood her ground, because I think she's right. The only thing that has changed, nothing has changed. He's used to sleeping with other women and sleeping with Ginger. So, I mean, it's just more of the same. She just chooses not to be upset by it anymore, or not devastated by it anymore. Plus, she got to keep the house. So it is what it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the main event. Gary Ewing and Ms. Valene Ewing. It would appear that this is 3 months, aka 90 days, after Gary's super West Coast bender. He was drinking the warm booze. He was doing all the things. He finally had a moment of clarity and decided, I will go to AA. I will do the proper steps. I will hold myself accountable. I will do whatever I have to do to manage this alcoholism that runs through me, right? Part of that means going to AA meetings. Now, that means you go to the meetings when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're feeling like it, when you don't feel like it, when things are good, when things are bad. You show up either way. I'm assuming to create this habit and just keep yourself accountable. So this particular meeting, they're doing their thing, and this guy is giving this speech in front of everybody, or his testimony. I don't know what they call it. He's telling everyone, do this, do that. If you're old, make sure you encourage someone younger. If you're young, make sure you seek out help. Let's just keep doing this. And the crowd, these extras are really into it. Every sentence ends with this roarous applause. Now, Gary is doing something very odd. Valene is there by his side per usual, and he is doing the 1980 equivalent of doom scrolling. He is completely distracted. For a split second, I thought he was looking down at his phone, and I was like, not for another 30 years. He's writing something on a tablet. Apparently, he is very distracted because this would have been, I guess, during the oil crisis when people couldn't get gas. I know a little bit about it, not a lot. If you don't have oil that is not being refined into gas, and that means people are rationing what they have. They're not driving as many cars, and they're certainly not going to go buy a brand new car. So he is basically, I guess, trying to formulate a plan on how to course correct and bring in more money into the dealership, which he does have a pretty good idea. But he's doing this during the AA meeting. Now, Val is all attentive, and you can tell she's looking at him the way she has to look at him. She needs to praise him with her mouth. But there's that very subtle thing, Jupiter, you know what I'm talking about. That very subtle thing where she's looking at him kind of tentatively, like, let me be in this moment, but let me read him. Is this going to be the moment? It's like she's always waiting for the bottom to fall out. This thing that she carries makes it very easy for her to recognize it in other people. If you've ever been, broke or dumped recently or really, really stressed, if you are sort of a compassionate person, or if you are an empathetic person, you kind of pick up on those things with other people. I think it also comes with time. The older you get, the more life you experience, you start to be able to recognize it in other people. Such is a case on this episode with Judy. Now, Judy has a very stubborn, very awful alcoholic husband who is a complete nightmare when he's drunk. Sound familiar? Of course it does. It's going to sound familiar in this particular instance because they're at an AA meeting. So we get to see Judy, a brunette lady with the Kris Jenner haircut in the back of the room. She looks annoyed. When I first saw this episode, I thought she was the alcoholic and she didn't want to be there. Turns out her husband, was supposed to meet her there, only he didn't show up. So she's pissed because she's like, what am I doing at this meeting? This has nothing to do with me. It's a moot point if he doesn't show up. So Gary and Valene are chitty. Gary's drinking the powdered lemonade, which looked fire. I'm not judging. Powdered lemonade is delicious. When up walks Dr. Lady from the episode where he got put inside. Basically, the doctor was an alcoholic, which is why she puts in so much work. She goes to the meeting. Gary flatters himself by saying, hey, doc, are you here to spy on all your old drunks? And she was like, I'm here doing doctor shit. Don't worry about what I'm doing. Also, I'm an alcoholic. I'm here so that I don't fall off the wagon. So let's call her Dr. Sober, because I can't remember her name. Dr. Sober sees Judy and she goes, "Oh, Judy, I'm so glad you came over here. I was going to introduce you to Val and Gary. Where's Earl?" Judy, like, man, I don't know. I don't know, and I really don't care. He's not here. Judy is pissed. She could have been anywhere else. If he wasn't going to show up, she could have gone ahead and gone home. She could have gotten some laundry. She could have been doing 150 other things. Unbeknownst to Judy, Earl is outside. Earl is fully dressed and he's at the meeting, but Earl feels away. He's a unique guy. He feels away about these sorts of meetings because he finds them to be, where are my notes? Quote, phony, dumb, and sanctimonious. Earl is fully embracing his a-hole era. He is fully embracing the fact that he is an alcoholic. He don't want to change. And he's insulted that these people go to these rah-rah sis goomba meetings to cheer other people who want to have a drink instead of pouring a drink. He thinks it's outlandish. So Valene and Judy are coming out of the meeting and they're chatting. Gary is sort of moping. He's in a bad mood because he's worried about the car business. And he is low-key taking it out on Valene. But Judy spots Earl. She's like, well, here I am. Look at me, boo-boo the fool. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if this is your first time joining me, welcome. I'm so glad you decided to join me for this episode. I need you to know something. I never lie about a scene. But from time to time, I will not quote it verbatim. I will extract the essence of the scene in something I like to call soap theater. I haven't done soap theater in a while. I'm not going to do it today. But just know, she didn't use my exact words, but it's the vibe. Back to it. Judy. Okay, Earl, hi. Silly me. I thought you were going to meet me in the meeting. And he's like, nah. I don't know why you thought that, Judy. You made that up all by yourself. And then, I swear the heavens parted, and one of the funniest, most underrated line of dialogue ever written happens just here. You got Gary looking crazy, looking like a thumb. You got Valene, the Vidalia Onion Queen. She's the eager cheerleader. Judy is a reluctant cheerleader. And you got the super drunk, who is not ashamed of anything he sips, swallows, or guzzles down. Judy, even though she's pissed, she still got some home training. She has manners. She says, Earl, this is Gary and his wife, Val. And Valene is she's a little nervous because you can tell that she's feeling that he's pissed. And so she's like, hi. And he goes, I certainly am. I fell out and I knew I was going to like him immediately. I was like, oh, hell. Here we go. Gary sees this. He is not pumped. So Gary is he's feeling himself. He has been sober for 90 long days, okay? And his wife tells him as much. Gary's been sober for how long, Gary? He's like, 3 months. Earl is not impressed. I was like, God, I should probably call the Guinness Book of World Records. Well, this pisses off Gary's tender little ego. And he says to Earl, gee, it looks like you could use a drink. Earl is unbothered. He's like, so do you. You look like you could use one too. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Here it is. This is what I've been waiting for. I didn't know I needed this. Gary reveals himself as hyper annoyed at this point. He's like, that's why I don't argue with a drunk. He's very self-righteous. Now, granted, he's pissed off. I'm sure he's not happy with the way that this man is talking to his wife and to anybody else. He can tell that he's just an angry drunk. Gary don't want to be bothered, but at the same time, you can tell he's kind of feeling himself a little more. He's feeling a little more superior to said kid. Judy had warned Valene that her husband was a douchebag. She said, girl, it's been 5 cars, 3 jobs, 2 cities, and 1 drunk husband. I don't believe this man is ever going to change. Don't have us over your house. We are not the invite over type. Valene is, listen, she's a Vidalia Onion Queen. This is a Southern woman. You're coming over. Plus, she's got these fly new dishes that she needs to show off. Somebody's going to see these dishes. Gary's feeling it too. Like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know, Val. I don't want to do this. Well, Val's like, well, no. You can be, listen, Earl, here's your card. This is Gary's work number. There's our house number. You have any problems at all, you just reach out and call us, okay? I'm wondering to myself, why does Valene have a business card with no business? And how are you going to put all of Gary's information on that? Like, don't do it. And Gary's looking like, no. He didn't want anything to do with it. They're having a little pillow talk later on, and he's like, listen, that dude's not ready. He's drunk. He's not here for it. I don't even want to play myself. I'm not going to bother myself with that. And Val convinced them, no, Gary, it'll be really good, because she was listening in the meeting while he was doom scrolling or doing, I don't know what he was writing, doodling, probably just drawing. She was listening to the man speak, and the man was like, you're always going to need someone to help you be accountable. You need something like that. And she and Dr. Sober had talked about it briefly. Dr. Sober was like, yeah, that's the best way to stay sober, is to hold yourself accountable and kind of look out for someone else. And I'm thinking the science behind that is just that when the same thing, like you said, you can see depression or sadness or just struggle in people. If you've experienced it as an alcoholic, I'm sure it's the same thing. You're going to see his struggle. You're going to see yourself in him, and it's just going to strengthen your own resolve. Or at least that's what I believe the thought is behind that. So eventually, Gary's at work minding his own business when, lo and behold, good drunk Earl comes stumbling into the business. He's like blackout drunk at 10:30 in the morning. Gary has no survival instincts. Friend, dear Soap Fiend, what would you do if a drunk man came stumbling into your kind of elaborate business? This is a car dealership. As far as I can tell, it's upstairs and downstairs. They seem to have a lounge. I'm sure they have plenty of offices. No. Gary, so quick on his feet, thinks, I should take him to my house. So he stumbles and fumbles with this man all the way back to the cul-de-sac. And he's yelling for Val to come on downstairs. I think she's out of the house at this moment. But he goes home, and he doesn't lay the kid on the couch. We've all had a drunk friend. You've been that friend probably. Lay on the couch and sleep it off. No. I'm going to put you upstairs in the guest bedroom, maybe to lock him in. I don't know. I didn't think that was a great idea. Pulling dead weight upstairs so that he can sober up. But that's what he does. Val feels like, well, hell, he's already here passed out. I might as well call his wife over to come pick him up. We can have some meatloaf on my bomb new dishes. Everybody needs to see my fine china. These are mine. These aren't Ellie's. Valene prepares this beautiful spread. Now, Judy and Gary, they don't have a ton of conversation, but they both feel exactly the same way about Earl. They not feeling him. They don't really care if he wakes up sober or not. Neither one of them thinks he's going to do that. Valene probably does care because she's empathetic, but Val is there for the hospitality and the hosting duties. Judy and Gary are there for the meatloaf, and Earl is only there to insult people who think drunk people are better off not being drunk. It's absurd. He's on that campaign. So Earl kind of sobers up a little bit. Gary goes upstairs, offers some coffee. The dude cackles at the whole coffee thing, blah, blah, blah. He comes downstairs, but what we don't know at this time, or right about this time, we find out he has a fresh bottle of booze in his boot. So he lifts his pant leg. We see the bourbon. He excuses himself from the dinner table, goes down to, he's upstairs. So this is where we see the booze. He goes down, he takes a big swig. He goes downstairs. He talks a little crap at dinner, just insulting people left and right. And it's quite humorous. I just can't remember everything he says. Then he excuses himself and he goes to the half bath right off of the stairwell. He goes in there, he takes a couple pulls, he comes out, he starts going off on people again and again. Now, he's getting more and more emboldened. His wife is more and more unimpressed with him. So she's popping off at him like, Earl, get your drunk ass back upstairs. Just go upstairs and sleep it off. We don't even want you here. Shut up, please. My God. Gary is just like pissed at Valene, like, I cannot believe you invited this man here. When let the record show, he's the one who drug him all the way home. Well, Earl is hitting his fist on the table, and Valene's fine china is just jumping all over. She's, oh my God. You can see the regret in her eyes at that moment. She's, oh my God. I was so excited about these damn dishes. I forgot about drunk people and fine china. A bull quite literally in a china shop. This fool goes into a full rant and he smashes his hand on the table. He smashes it again. And then the third smash, he smashes Valene's bowl. I was done. This is devastating. Deep dish, new dish, one fish, two fish. Get your drunk ass out of my house. I said, Gary, you got to get him. Gary, come and get him. So Gary picks him up. I'm upset. I'm hollering at the, oh my gosh, pardon the accent. I'm hollering at the show. My family thinks I'm nuts. I don't care. Gary, get in here and do something. Gary takes him to a restaurant, I suppose. But they had like a bar, like, I don't know, like a lounge. It didn't seem like a great idea. So the guy seemed mildly embarrassed that he had thrown that fit. And then he noticed that they had happy hour from 4 to 6 p.m. So he's like, well, uh, I guess this is my stop, Gary. And Gary's like, man, don't you want to be sober like me? And the guy, and Earl's like, okay, drunk to drunk, answer me this. What do you do when you're craving a drink, like a real drink? I'm talking liquor, but you're not having it in the moment. How do you remedy that? How do you get the alcohol? And Gary's like, I don't. I just drink a lot of coffee. Earl's like, man, count me out. Sobriety sounds like a nightmare. I'm going to go over here and enjoy happy hour. Gary goes, dude, don't you want to get better? He's like, no, I love drinking. Drinking is a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, all the good things in my life are accompanied by alcohol. Gary has this weird sort of aha moment where I think he drank to kind of tamper something down. Earl, who also happens to be a writer, he makes a joke about it being like this tragic but true stereotype about writers. You're going to be this wild drunk. He's like, he might be drinking to pull something out of himself. That's how he remains. He thinks things are fun, but it started to take over him. Gary does talk to Valene about it, and he gets upset because he's like, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe those are the good old times. He's starting to feel a little bit shaky. And this is where I kept going back and forth in my mind about Gary. I can totally see in this particular instance and nothing else, in this particular instance, his sobriety is so fragile. I was, number one, very shocked that Dr. Sober thought it was time for him to be a sponsor. I'm thinking he's only 90 days in. Not that you need a long rap sheet, but I would hardly say 3 months means you have a full handle on it. Like, he's still very much working through this. And yes, you can encourage someone to not drink, but you can also be encouraged to drink. I wondered if she thought about the temptation, Dr. Sober, that is, the temptation he would be feeling at 3 months. Yes, he's always going to feel it, but I'm like, right out of the gate, this is, I don't know, it seemed to be a very fragile time. Plus, we've all seen how fragile Gary Ewing is. And then number two, when he is frustrated, he goes off on Val. Now, he's not wrong. She didn't push, in my opinion. She encouraged him to encourage that guy, because what he's not noticing is that she's there to encourage him as well. Valene is encouraging Gary. Gary, maybe you should learn to encourage other people. Maybe you should take on a little more responsibility. And it's that whole, she's the eager cheerleader, and you see the exact opposite mirrored to her in Judy this episode, which I liked. Judy was upset. Judy was at the end of her rope. Her faith was not steadfast. She thought, this is the end of this. I am wasting my time with this man. This man would rather yell and drink than work on saving his own life. He is content to stay this exact same person. Why should I sacrifice myself? Valid point, valid question. And Valene, you need to ask yourself the same thing, baby. Gary might not be a raging alcoholic at this point, but how much longer do you need to walk on eggshells around him in order to maintain whatever this is? That's a very draining experience, I would think. Well, by the end of the episode, Earl does indeed go into shock. He stops drinking for like 10 minutes. He ends up in this seedy hotel. Gary is called. He shows up reluctantly, and he's like holding the guy. The guy throws up down his... Gary's not wearing a V-neck, but he's unbuttoned even more so than the aviator Adonis. I saw at least 17 and a half inches of chest and upper abdomen. Earl promptly pukes down Gary's shirt, and Gary suddenly feels so alive. Oh my God. He's happy that he's helping someone. And it's like, yay, Gary, that's wonderful. But also, that's okay. That's great. Love is patient, love is kind, all those things. The guy ends up in the hospital, and his wife, although on her last leg, she's standing there. But I fully enjoyed that contrast between Val and her. Val tells one of the other wives, it could have been Laura or someone else, that Gary's really stressed, and that if she doesn't go to the meetings, he won't go to the meetings. So the burden she's carrying is for the greater good in her eyes. Judy is open enough to say, I don't know if I want to do this, but also keep in mind, Valene has just now gotten back with Gary. It would seem a little bit soon to throw in the towel. I'm not saying it's even that deep, but this is unsustainable. At the end of the episode, all's well that ends well. He stepped up. The guy got treatment, or at least the guy agreed to go into treatment, and they lived to see another day. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Special shout out to Jupiter, Arizona, and Albany. Thank you for your comments. If you want to leave me a comment, make sure to check the show notes. You can text me whatever you want to say. Whatever's on your mind, I want to hear it. All right, join me next time as we jump back into soap opera debauchery. Remember to keep your friends close, your enemies closer, and for God's sake, buy paper plates. We didn't learn anything else on this episode. No dish is a safe dish. Not deep dish, not new dishes, and certainly not dishes holding boozy booze. Stay hydrated, stay moisturized, mind your own business, and keep all of your drama on TV.